Greetings and welcome back to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. We are going to be continuing our gameplay here of the Battle of Kalach from the game Inflection Point. This is Battalion Combat Series, and it is from MMP The Gamers, designed by Dean Essig. And we are still in turn one. I did a few, actually I think I only did 2 activations in part 1. I'm shooting for shorter segments here and probably more segments therefore. But I'm going to try to connect them all via direct links to the following video at the end of each installment until we reach the end. So we will be resuming here, and our next step now is to, well, we forgot to mark these guys as used. Now you do have the option at this point, if you wanted to go for a second activation, and then if you wanted to do that, you would have to roll a number higher than what you see on the die there. And that would give you the opportunity to activate your formation again. And that is not a bad thing to try. But we are now going to try our next activation here. So I will be drawing 3 chits out of the cup. And we'll see what we get here. So I've got 3 in hand here. We have the 297th Infantry from the Germans, and the 16th Panzer from the Germans, so 2 German units, and the 181st Rifle Division from the Soviets. So they're going to go back in the cup, and I will be choosing between the 16th Panzer and the 297th Infantry. Now, the 16th Panzer is kind of over there, so I'm going to reset my shot, and we will be picking it up with the activation of the 16th Panzer Division. And we're going to finally get some German units on the map and finally see some movement and potentially some combat. I'm again at the northern end of the map, so you're seeing my hands upside down, I guess. But here is Gusinka River, and this is entry point D, which is where the 16th Panzer is. And if we look at their card here, they have, and you can see their unit logo there, and they have 1 artillery point. Now their headquarters, you can see really nice command range of 12, and they normally will standardly have 2 artillery points. For a second activation, they only need a 3. So this is a good example of a particularly powerful unit on the German side. They have a decent amount of units as well. So I am going to start to move these guys in. Now, they can come in here and here. Now, this is a track, right? So your movement on a track is not as good as it would be on the secondary road here. The unit that will be opposing them, assuming they come in and go in this direction, would be the 33rd Guards Division of the Red Army. And they are actually used already, as you can see. Now, we also have the 181st Rifle Division down in this area as well. There's a gap between them and the 192nd Rifle, which is at the northern end of the map. Okay, so here is our terrain effects chart. This is from the Inflection Point game rules. So when you get this game, you end up with the series rules, the series support guide, the game rules, and then rules specific to both Kalach and Cheer. So that's like, what, 5 books, I think? When I say books, some of them are pretty small. This one's only 12 pages, and the scenario books are even smaller. So here you can see you've got open sand, et cetera, right? We're looking for secondary road, which is right here, right? So for leg, it's a half. For movement type tactical, which is what our most of our tanks and such would fall under, it's also half. And then you've got trucks, and then notes about whether it's combat, whether it has an impact for terrain, and we'll talk about that. That impacts your SNAFU. No, that impacts your DRM for combat. Sorry. Then you got your blocking terrain and, of course, key terrain. And we'll get into these as we encounter them, and we will be encountering this one first, most likely, although we could potentially come up against this. You can see woods is a blocking, and so is a hill, which makes sense, right? And in this particular one, the Don River is also blocking in one direction. So having shown you that, we can get into movement for the units and also determining whether or not we want to go with the movement side or the deployed side. So if I take one of my units here, and this is actually a recon unit. You can see it's got 16 movement points on that side. That's its deployed side. It does not have a movement side. So basically a recon unit, they have special abilities, and that probably wasn't a good one to show you to do this. Let's go with this armored battalion instead, right? So this one, you can see the 4 there on the bottom right. That is its movement in deployed mode. And I'm upside down, I'm sorry. The 14 here is the road movement rate. So I apologize for being upside down there. This is the right side up. Look at the recon unit here, right? So if I were to bring them in road mode, you lose some of your punch offensively in terms of modifiers and other things. And we'll get into that because I am going to bring these guys on in movement mode because I want to get them. Well, let's see here. If they come in here, let's take out tank unit, which has a 4, right? They would go, that would be 1. Then 2 more hexes would be 2. And then 3. And then 4, which doesn't really get us. And this is, I'm deciding all this before I've done anything in terms of the activation stuff. We'll get to that in a moment. So that means the SNAFU roll and objectives and all that stuff. Because I need to figure out what mode I'm coming in, because that will help determine how far down I can get. Now I could put objectives on, say, here and here, and say that's where I'm going to start to push in, or I can go maybe here and here. That's if, or you can what's called the double tap, which is you can have 2 objectives if you get a full activation. And if I get a full activation on the SNAFU roll, that is, then I could put them both on, say, this guy. And you have to put it on a unit because that's the only way you can attack somebody. That has to be an objective. So as I said, planning is a very big part in this game. And I know I didn't say that in this video, but I'm assuming you watched the first video. So I could put a double tap on here, which gives you a little bit more of an advantage in combat. Or I can do 1 here and 1 here. And now, again, that's assuming a full activation. If you get a partial, or worse yet, a fail, then things are negatively impacted. So perhaps we should go with looking at the activation cycle first here. So again, looking at our normal activation, right? Identify activating formation and flip its HQ to used. Then we have preparation, right? So combat trains and all that stuff. Now we're coming in from off map. So some of this is going to be a little bit different for this. Then you see we have our SNAFU roll, and that's where we're going to determine our SNAFU level of a fail, partial, or full activation. And then we have our objective placement. So you place your objectives once you know what they are, which makes sense because if you have 2, then you have options. If you only have 1, then obviously you only have 1. And if you fail, then that's just kind of bad news. So in looking over the rules, I noticed I already messed up. So I'm supposed to put this, which is the HQ, supposed to put this guy and our combat train, which if I can find it. So this is our combat train. If you have not seen one before, I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to put the HQ with it. Okay. And they are going to be entering there. And then all the other units can just be kind of back this way, and we'll bring them on as we go. So that way we know that our HQ and combat trains are already on the map. The rules also indicate that they cannot be attacked by the enemy. So we're going to move on to our SNAFU roll here. And our SNAFU table modifiers, we are not fresh. We don't have any issues with coordination. Our fatigue level 0, so no modifier there. And we're not mixed, and we don't have, actually we do have a game-specific SNAFU DRM here. And looking at our specific rules, we are in this area here, and you can see German spearhead formations are the 16th Panzer, which is what we have. They get a +1 here. right now from July 23rd to the 25th. So we get a +1 for that. We also get +1 for optimal distance. That's kind of automatic when you're coming in from an entry point. So that actually gives us a +2, which means we are guaranteed at least a partial activation. So I'm going to roll here. And we get a 7, and a 7 is, of course, +2 would be 9, and a 9 is, you need a 7 for a full activation. We got a 9. So we have a full activation. That allows us to have two objectives. And we can also have one that's recon created, so we'll get to that in a moment. Then you get full movement allowance and all kinds of other things that are good, including artillery barrage. So if we want to use our one artillery point on somebody this turn, we can. We can also do all kinds of combat and so on and so forth. One thing I did not talk about is the air support that we get, and I forgot to do that because we skipped the weather phase because the weather for this scenario is already predetermined, but we would roll for it. And yes, so I messed that up, and I'm going to roll for it right now. We got a 6, and a 6 is here in we get 7 air points for the Germans. They'd get 4 air supply points, which don't come into play until turn 4. And the Russians get 5. The next time we have a Soviet unit activation, and I could have done this before, we can probably start attacking units that get onto the map, such as the 16th Panzer. So we will see what we get now. You might note the 33rd Guard is actually used. So we could try to roll for a second activation for them, but they typically are. But there are several Soviet divisions that are not going to be able to be activated, or they could, but only via a second activation. All right, so the first unit we're going to activate is one of our tank units, so the Panzer rather. So this is, as you can see, 16th Panzer, 1st Regiment of the 2nd Battalion. So we are going to come on in our movement mode. So that gives us 14. Oh, wait, before I do that, I forgot to put out my objectives here, which we do need to do. So as a full activation, you get 2 of these objective markers, and you see the little point on there, and that's what you point at the hex. So if we were going to attack here, I could just do like that, and it's pointing at that guy. And that is one of our objectives. And I think our second one, okay, so I'm actually going to do this here and put the other one there, which is, of course, their headquarters. And we're going to see if we can do what's called jumping the headquarters. It's a bit of a stretch, and we will need a second activation to do this successfully, but that is the goal. So with that being said, we have this guy. This is one of our armored units. He's got 14 movement points. He's in move mode, of course. In combat mode, or deployed mode rather, he has a 4. So this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to here. Okay, and then he's going to follow that up by going onto the track, which costs 1. So we have 8 more to get there, and we have to go across some clear terrain as well. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to get him adjacent. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to put him right there. And we'll stop for the moment. So now if I can get a second activation, I will use that to flip him to his other side and then attack the headquarter hex. Okay, and so that is that, as they say. Now, at the moment, he's actually out of, excuse me, range, but we will be moving our headquarters up. So he's actually 14 hexes from the HQ right now. The HQ's command range is 12, which is pretty solid, right? So let's move our other Panzer battalion here, the 2nd Battalion, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to follow the same path. Now, as long as you don't get into an adjacent hex of a combat unit, you don't have to stop. If you come adjacent and enter a zone of control of the enemy in EZOC, you would have to stop. So we kind of went up the road, and we never came within one here of, we never went adjacent to any combat unit until we got up here. So I'm going to put this. You can stack 2 per hex, 2 combat units per hex. So that's our armored fist right there that we're going to hit that guy with. And now we'll move our next unit, and I think we'll send in, well, we want to put some pressure, so I may bring in some units here. So here we have the 1st Battalion of the 64th Regiment, right? And they have a movement of 4 on their deployed side and 12 on their not deployed side. So this costs 1 if I enter here, because this is a track. So we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. If I want to put him, and he would be on this side actually, so we'll put him there. And I guess you cock them a little bit so that you can tell it they moved, and you don't have to worry about it. Now this time I would know they moved because they're just now entering the map. What do we want to send with him here? Maybe we should send one of his other battalions. So we'll do the same thing. We'll send this one, but we'll change it up, and we're going to put him here next to him so that we can look at how assists work, and we'll talk about that when we get to combat after our second activation, assuming we get it. And where's our 3rd battalion? He is, I guess we don't have a 3rd battalion for this one. The 79th has only 2 as well. So no 3 battalion regiments here with the 16th Panzer, apparently. We do have some pioneers. We have our recon, and I will move the recon. I'm trying to decide where I want to move that recon. And his move, he's always got a movement rate allowance of 16, right? So if we send him up the road, so we go 1, 2, and he has red movement allowance, which means that is called tactical MA, tactical movement allowance. Trucks are black and leg is white. So you can see, like, our infantry, these guys are black right now because they're on trucks, because they're in movement mode. But when they're afoot, they get a white because they are leg at that point. So we're going to take this guy, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're just going to go up road here. 7, 8, 9, or off road rather, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm just going to plop this guy right here. I'll cock him so we know he moved. And I should cock them the other way to match the other ones that I've done that with. All right, now we've got 4 more units here. Next, we're going to take our, wrong way, 16th Panzer Grenadier Battalion, which does have a move side allowance of 16, just like our recon. So with that in mind, I'm going to actually send him up, and we'll put him right here. Since I already counted it out, I know I don't have to do it again. We'll leave him right there. He actually, well, I don't think he could have, maybe. Because he'd have to go around and cross the river. Now notice we haven't really crossed water anywhere yet, but we do have the Krepkaya here that we will be dealing with at some point. Like, well, perhaps not, depending on the line of advance. If I can break through the 33rd and get out to the west, the race will be on to get to Kalach, to get to the Don River. And we will see how things go there, but that we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Now we will use leg movement. This way I can get an attack, perhaps. Perhaps. I need to see if I can make the numbers work. So if we take one of our regular regiments, the 79th Regiment, and you can see it's white, so it's got leg movement in deployed mode. We could switch to movement. But if we go, because it's only a half for leg here, I believe. Let's see, leg for secondary road is a half. Yes, it's a half for everybody. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. He doesn't get there. We want to get here. So I'm going to put him in movement mode. And again, it'll just be 1, 2, and then it doesn't even matter. 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll put him here. He's still in movement mode. We're going to send his buddy along with him. And then this last infantry battalion from the 79th, which is actually 2, doesn't really matter. And our Panzerjägers here, our support unit, they are going to hang with the HQ. And the HQ is going to move. And its movement is also 12. Okay. And we're going to leave the combat train where it is, right here on the entry point for now. I mean, that's a little bit risky because these guys could try to jump it, but I don't really see any reason to move it because that has a slightly negative connotation that I don't want to do. I might do it maybe in the second activation, assuming I get it. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and maybe we stop right here. So maybe we should move him up 1. We'll move him here. Okay, so that completes their first activation, right? So after that happens, right, we did our activities. Now we can, we check for fatigue, and we only moved, so we don't have any possibilities of picking up fatigue. Engagement, attack by fire, second activation. So if we do a second activation, which we are going to attempt to do, we will have a fatigue roll. Now their fatigue right now is a 0. So we're not doing that. We don't have any cleanup to do because we haven't yet attacked our objectives. And we don't have any traffic or temporarily dropped support or anything like that. All right. Combat train has to be within 15 to be optimal distance, which I believe it is. Now we go, there's no isolation either. Everybody's in supply. Okay, we're fine. We're fine. So now we're going to go for a second activation. Okay, so when you do that, you have to flip the HQ from this. We kind of unorient it to actually be upside down, which indicates that it's done. Now we roll again for SNAFU. So we again have to check our SNAFU tables. And so we still don't have any negatives. The optimal distance is still good. Okay. Automatically applies if the combat trains are in an entry hex and the HQ is not further than 15 hexes away. It's obviously not. Right? Okay. So we get a +1 for that. Yes. Okay. So we're going to roll. We get a +1. We got a 4. And a 4 +1 is a 5. So that makes this a partial. You know, I rolled the SNAFU there without having to checking the activation was actually good. I got to do that first. And we rolled a 3. It needs a 3, so that was successful. So we have a partial activation. So with a partial activation, so I was supposed to remove this and this during cleanup. And now with a partial, we only have 1. So since we only have 1 available, I am going to use it here for obvious reasons, right? And so now we are going to be jumping the HQ of the 33rd Guards Division. All right, so because we have an anti-tank unit, support unit right here, we want to make them lose that. So what we'll do is we'll attack with one of our armored units here and save the other one for a follow-up attack, right? Or Yeah, we'll just do it that way. So that's a 5 against a 2. And this is an engagement attack, because that's really the only way we can do it. So the target is going to get a +1 for the prepared defense. Base for each side is AV plus action rating. Okay, so for the tank, oh wait, I was going to flip these too, which doesn't cost anything. So we're flipping them over to their other side, so their deployed side. So that gives us a little extra bonus. So 3 plus 5 is 8, and the defender gets a 3 because they only have a 2 on there. Okay, so that's this target is support. Okay, and so they get a 3. Okay, so we're going to roll 2 dice, and we'll see what we get here. So let's just do this. And we got a 9, and a 9 is a target drop. Oh wait, yeah, 9 plus, what do we have? 8 over 3, 5. 9 plus 5 is 14, target loss and drop. Okay, so that was the reason to do that, was to get rid of this guy, because this guy basically eliminates the possibility of having a shock attack, which is what I want, right? So now we'll use the other unit. Now the thing with this is, eliminating this guy is kind of temporary. He will come back. Okay, so now we're going to go through the regular attack here, which will be a shock attack from one of the units. So he's got a 2. It's going to get a +1 to become a 3 because of the prepared defense. And I don't think anything else. Let's see. Defender gets, he doesn't get he gets a +1 for prepared defense. He does not have 2 combat units because he's there with an HQ. Does not have any hex side terrain. He's not hard red AV, and he's not in an urban hex. And so he gets a 3, like I said. The attacker, it's not a double objective. It's a shock attack after, it's not a suppression mission, so we don't have to worry about that. I don't think we can assist. It's not from off map. Shock attack preceded by attack by fire, no. And it is a hard red, so it does get a +1 for that. So that would be a 6 against a 3 is a +3. So we will roll on our combat table for this. And we only got a 3, which is not a good result. So a 3 plus 3 is 6, and that is an A1 loss. So they actually lose a step. I'll just put it on the bottom unit for ease. Now they start with 5, so he's going to have 4 left. We'll put a 4 on there, and that is that. Now, that's the only hex we can attack. Okay, I'm going to flip these guys over to their deployed side so we can attack next turn. Well, that guy is actually a recon. Recon. Can they put an objective on there? Let me check, because there is a recon objective as well. So yes, they can create an objective. So I don't think we have an armored or recon objective marker, so I'm just going to use this guy right here. And we're going to attack this guy. He's not in any terrain or anything. They've both got the arrow, meaning they can attack. So we can do an assist, I believe, with this guy. And we'll have this guy attack, right? His AR is a 5, so that's going to be a 5 to 2. Now, again, prepared defense, so that'll give them a +1 on the defender side. But I believe that's it. That's the only thing they're going to get. And for the attacker, they are going to get a +1 for an assist from the recon. So that will give them a total of 6. So again, it's going to be our favorite, 6 to 3. We're going to roll here. And this time we got a 9. And a 9 plus 3 on the combat table is 12. That is a D1 and a retreat. Okay, so D number has to lose steps, and typically your defender has to designate an AR unit, the unit that's going to be the primary defender. In this case, there's only one, so it was obviously this guy. So he's going to take a step loss, and he has to retreat. He is also a 3-step unit, so I'm just going to put a 2, and actually we'll tuck it underneath so we can still see the unit, which is what I should have done over there, but I didn't. Okay, now the retreat rule. You have a chart for this in the player aid card, retreat execution, and it says combat table. This is just a retreat, so it's an automatic retreat, so not a situational retreat. No HQ. They have to retreat within 1 of its HQ and flip to move side. Okay, so they're going to go back to being adjacent to the HQ, and we're going to flip it to its move side. So he's got 2 left, and he's going to be right there. That goes away, and I believe they can advance after combat, so they'll move up right there. And that is the end of that activation, because I don't think there's anything else we can do here. So we're going to move on to the cleanup phase, where we remove objective, traffic, and temp drop support. That we did not get any traffic from the combat. That's just kind of a post-combat, as you might guess, traffic, where you got units kind of milling around and disorganized kind of thing. And we don't have any temp drop support. If the combat trains are not optimal distance, they're fine. Right now, we would flip them to ghost, but that did not occur. Now we have to do our fatigue increase rolls. Okay, so for fatigue increase, okay, actually, I guess we did attack. So we'll do, it's a 1 to 3. So we got a 50% chance here. And we got a 2. So we do actually, sorry. We do get a fatigue increase. So the fatigue here was a 0. It is now going to be a 1. I'm going to grab a chip for that, and you can see fatigue 1, and that's going to go right here on its little card. This goes away because we used it. And that, I believe, ends our activation, unless I want to move my combat train, but it'd be difficult for these guys to get to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He could get there, but the only way he has to be able to enter that hex, I think, to make him move. So now from the German side, we're trying to push as hard as we can. I'm assuming what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to actually bother with. Well, you know what? I should have moved them during the activity phase, which I did not do. So I'm going to leave them there. Now, what would have happened if I had moved them? They can just go to anywhere that would be, like I could put them here, for example, but they would have to get flipped to their ghost side, and then they would have to recover back to regular in the next activation for the 16th Panzer. So I am just going to leave them here, which is kind of risky, but we'll see what happens here. So that is going to do it for this video. We're going to move on to part 3. Which will follow immediately with the next activation. So we really only got 1 activation in, but it was a good one because we finally got to show some combat. So we may end up only having like 1 turn in this series of videos, only because I want to show the game, and you know, that's it. So shout out to my channel members. Thank you guys for your support, and they get their videos 1 day early. If they are countered level. So that might be incentive for some to join. You get a little bit earlier access to my stuff by 1 day. You could also just wait and watch it for free, essentially. Yeah, basically. So, yeah. So thank you to my channel members. Appreciate the support. It is greatly appreciated, actually. So, yeah. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comments, etc., please feel free to post them. If you would consider liking, sharing, hyping, or perhaps even subscribing if you're not already a subscriber, all of those things would be awesome and very welcome, and I would be very thankful for that. If you're already a subscriber, thank you again. But we are done with this one. I'm Joe. This is Hexed Encountered. Until next time, happy gaming.